It's a Matter of Insurance, presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. The New Hampshire Insurance Department is a state agency that regulates the commercial insurance industry in New Hampshire. Have questions or need assistance with your coverage? Call our Consumer Services Division at 1-800-852-3416 or email consumerservices@ins.nh.gov. Learn more about us by visiting nh.gov/insurance. I'm AJ Kierstead, the Consumer Outreach Coordinator at the department. This episode features a discussion of how workers' compensation rates are going down for the 12th consecutive year in New Hampshire, and the Consumer Services Division recovered a record $6 million in fiscal year 2023. Director Keith Nyhan will break that down. But first, did you consider rental insurance for students heading back to college? Director of Property and Casualty James Fox suggests everyone check out our rental insurance advisory, which I have linked in the episode description. Rental insurance is important because it will cover personal property that is damaged or stolen, protect you from liability if an accident occurs, and might cover temporary living expenses if an emergency forces the individual to leave a residence. A big plus to rental insurance, it's not expensive, with rates as low as $100 per year. If your college student is a dependent, be sure to speak with your insurance agent to make sure your existing homeowners or rental insurance covers their property when away at school. Lastly, be sure to speak with your agent to consider other coverages or how to file a claim. If you have problems navigating your coverage, don't forget to contact our Consumer Services Division at 1-800-852-3416 or emailing consumerservices@ins.nh.gov. In exciting news for the insurance industry, there is a drop in rates when it comes to workers' compensation for 2024. To dive into that, I'm joined by Chief Property and Casualty Actuary Citarella and Workers' Compensation Analyst Ruju. So to start off with you, Ruju, how important are workers' compensation rates to the business community in New Hampshire?
Well, workers' comp is a required insurance in New Hampshire, so if the rates are lower, it helps businesses with their bottom line.
At a high level, how are rates determined, and what is the National Council on Compensation Insurance?
The National Council on Compensation Insurance is a nationwide organization that is an advisory organization with carrier members across the country. So these are insurance companies that participate in the NCCI and rely on them to do what are called loss costs. These are the base rates that build premium. Loss costs are developed using data from New Hampshire workers' compensation experience, loss data claims, but also data from across the country. The NCCI produces these loss costs for over 30 different states, and that is the gold standard for workers' compensation rates in the industry.
How did we end up with a reduction in the workers' compensation rates for 2024?
We've been seeing a reduction in rates over the last 10 years, and that pattern has continued. The thing that we see this time around relative to the last couple of years, it appears, was NCCI decided, the actuaries there decided to do a slight reduction in the trend assumptions for indemnity benefits. And so what that means is they anticipate less dollars going out to lost time, lost wages. So I interpret that to mean that there is an expectation, injured workers are getting back on the job faster, that there's a quicker recovery time when there are injuries at work. There appears to be a continued decrease in frequency of injuries, but what seems to be new now is that we anticipate a quicker recovery time.
So when do these new rates go into effect?
The new rates always go into effect on January 1st. I actually am going to post the new rates during the first week of January on our website as well.
It's important that employers should keep in mind the fact that what we're talking about here are these loss costs. These are the underlying factors that build premium. And so the way it works is these rates are based on dollars of payroll. So a given rate may be $1.25 of premium per $100 of premium for a particular type of class code, which is the type of work that the employee does. So it's important to keep in mind that if the workforce grows or if wages increase, then premium is going to grow, proportional to that. So it's important for all employers to understand their workforce, their payroll, and to take that into account when looking at their next premium estimate.
And as we always say, be sure to work with your insurance agent to make sure you're getting the appropriate coverage and the best rate for that coverage. We have a strong marketplace of insurance in the state, and we want to keep that the case. So thank you so much for Chief Property and Casualty Actuary Christian Citarella and Workers' Compensation Analyst Ruju Dave for talking to me on this topic. Next, I'm joined by Consumer Services Division Director Keith Nyhan to discuss how the Consumer Services Unit recovered a record nearly $6 million for Granite State consumers during the fiscal year 2023. So to start off with, Keith, what sort of things are included in that figure?
It was a record year in fiscal year 2023. That figure represents all the monies that the Insurance Department's Consumer Division facilitated residents receiving back from insurance companies. These are monies that we believe the consumers likely would not have received on their own had the department not been involved. And those numbers it's obviously a big number. Significantly, there were some very large recoveries, upwards of $400,000, but the overwhelming majority of those numbers were cases that affected everyday citizens, ranging from $10 to about $1,000.
So the Life and Health Consumer Services subunit recovered more than $4 million alone. What are some of the common complaints that resulted in this recovery figure?
Common complaints frequently that we see in the life and health side are complaints concerning health insurance claims that are denied. As I mentioned previously, can be relatively small claims where perhaps someone's prescription may have been denied coverage. Some of those recoveries are very large ones associated with perhaps denied surgical stays in hospitals. And it could be something consumer sought an elected surgery that was out of network on the premise that he or she believed it was an in-network facility because of information that was provided to the patient by the company. It's usually a miscommunication. In other cases, it might be something where the consumer received a foreign ambulance bill. Any types of situations involving denied claims is really what we're focusing on.
And the press release also states there were 88 external reviews to give a specific figure on it. I really want to reinforce that it's super important that if people have questions about claims, they think they're denied or they're getting the wrong numbers or anything like that, they should definitely reach out to the Consumer Services Division.
Absolutely. And there are certain types of plans that the department does regulate and certain types of plans that we do not regulate. A great example for individuals is self-funded plans. Self-funded insurance plans are not regulated by the state insurance department. Coincidentally, state employees have self-funded plans, but it doesn't mean we can't help individuals. Whether or not an individual has a self-funded plan or a fully insured plan, sometimes called commercial insurance, people think of that as group coverage through their employer. It might even be an individual plan that the person may buy on New Hampshire's federally facilitated marketplace, sometimes known as the exchange. We can help with those claims. New Hampshire law requires certain appeal rights for consumers. In its most basic form, when a consumer has a claim denied by an insurance company, he or she has a couple of options to go back to the company and say, hey, listen, I'd like a reconsideration of that claim. The company upholds their original denial. There are appeal rights that we administer here at the State Insurance Department. Those are called external appeal rights. What that is essentially we're going to review the facts of the denial, and if it meets some basic criteria, in this case, it's a fully insured plan, coverage is active, and the denial of that claim was based upon a medical necessity criteria or adverse determination, we will place it with an independent review board. There's 7 of them that we use throughout the country, and that independent review board's decision about that claim is basically binding arbitration on the insurance company. And just to share a few facts with the listeners, the Insurance Department receives approximately 90 applications for external review per year. Approximately 50% of those, so we'll say 45, are eligible for the external review determination, and roughly 1/3 of those that are placed with external review organizations are overturned. So basically, for a cost of probably 30 to 45 minutes of time pulling records together, and the cost of postage to get those records to us, it's definitely worth the consumer's time and energy to get that appeal to us.
Lift the curtain a little bit on your unit. You've processed 1,078 consumer complaint investigations over the span of the year. How many people are working in your team to take all these calls?
Great question. The consumer team is blessed to have a lot of gifted and talented people with a lot of industry experience. Our staff currently sits at 7. There's myself and there's the unit's manager. We have 4 active investigators and 1 individual who basically preps our work for us and feeds us our workload each day. But every one of us investigates cases to some extent.
Awesome. And if anyone ever has any questions or complaints about their insurance coverage, please do reach out to the Consumer Services Unit by calling 1-800-852-3416. Email consumerservices@ins.nh.gov or visit nh.gov/insurance. Thank you for listening to A Matter of Insurance presented by the New Hampshire Insurance Department. You can subscribe to the show on all major podcast platforms. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and always remember that we are here to help. If you have problems with your insurance, call the Consumer Services Unit at 1-800-852-3416 or email consumerservices@ins.nh.gov.